May 15, 2019, fiscal year 20 operating budget hearings of the Budget and Finance Committee and Metro Council. Before us, we have the Fire and EMS Department, Director Chief William Swan. Director Chief, I'll let you do the introductions, then I'll turn it over to you so you can walk us through your budget. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. Again, we want to acknowledge Taneka Barcher, who's the chair, and then to the Honorable Metro Council. Again, I'll say good afternoon and thank you for this opportunity to do a quick overview of the Nashville Fire Department's FY20 budget. And with me to my right is Leanne Bircher, who is my financial advisor and helped me keep things straight. I want to also take time to acknowledge in the back room part of my command staff who's out just supporting me. So we appreciate you guys in the back. But more importantly, I want to publicly acknowledge the men and women that work for the Nashville Fire Department. We are truly just one big family, and they do just a great job, outstanding job every year, and they do and give outstanding service to the residents and visitors of Davidson County. And I'm just completely honored to be the chief of this great department. Before we get into the budget, I just want to quickly acknowledge and talk about a few of the department's accomplishments. What we did last year and continuing to do is touch the community in different manners than just it being an emergency or something catastrophic happened in their life. So we've done that in several ways. I have just a few personnel, or not personnel, but a few organizations I want to acknowledge. Our Blaze team, mentoring program, they work with the Metro schools. They go into 12 core high schools. They've donated more than 250 hours of valuable time to the core high schools, just helping young people be the best at whatever they can be. Blaze stand for Breaking Limitations, Accepting Zero Excuses. Our hockey teams are very well, not just ambassadors to the Nashville Fire Department, but to the city of Nashville, raise thousands of dollars to different foundations that they give. In Box 55, we're very proud of them. They are on the scene 24 hours a day, 7 days, 24/7 to provide refreshment, food, and rehab for our firefighters and also any emergency services. We have James C. Foundation, that a member of the Nashville Fire Department who passed away years ago with ALS, and his wife and a few others formed a foundation and given scholarships to individuals who want to further their education in fire or EMS or pathological disease studies. We hosted a Firehouse Expo, which brought thousands of people to Nashville, which a lot of revenue, and also EMS World, which we sponsor every 3 years. You'll hear me constantly in my speeches talk about staying relevant to the times and always being prepared for the future. Our partnership with Metro Schools and the Tennessee Highland Rim Health Coalition helped us introduce a new tool for the Nashville Fire Department, which is called the AMBU bus. It's a bus basically converted in a sense to an ambulance, and it's able to transport and treat multiple patients who require ambulance care. So it's bringing us to the 21st century, and I cannot speak enough about that. But more to the meat and potatoes. The fire services over the years have truly evolved more into a service of all hazards response. We deal with not just fire and EMS, but also special type of events like swift water, water rescue, trench, high angle, and special events. As of April 30th, the fire department has made a little over 105,000 calls, a little over 22,000 fires, 72,000 medic calls, a little over 10,000 what we consider other calls. We've transported more than 61,000 personnel, and I can very proudly say, at no small feat, the men and women of the Nashville Fire Department do a tremendous job. And I think when you look at our department, from several years ago, when you thought about the fire departments in the nation, you would always hear about different cities, but now you hear about Nashville. And it's not because I'm the director chief, but it's because of the men and women out there every day doing such a great job. And then we're marketing our department like we should. Becoming the IT City is more than just a name for us. It's a title that we wear proudly, but with hard work. For the fiscal year 19, the Nashville Fire Department, I'm proud to say, will remain in budget and also successfully achieve our target savings. And we accomplished this by graduating a new fire recruit and reducing our minimum staffing from 183 to 176 to help reduce overtime. And then we also use additional our administrative staff, those who can ride in the field in lieu of overtime. They do that twice a month. Some of our department challenges, like the rest of the departments, we know this will be another tight budget year, but we're prepared for that. One of the things that are always challenging for this department is the paid family leave. I think that program was put in. It's great for the department, and including myself, but as far as running and leading a department, that's always a challenge because it's non-funded. Currently, we're at $1.2 million when it comes to paid family leave. Now, part of that's because our staffing numbers, we just don't have flexibility, and unlike most departments, I think we're more vulnerable than any because we have to run certain numbers, and if a person is off, we have to fill that position. So again, I think it's great for the employees. I'm not against that because, again, I'm one of their employees, but it's just not funded. Attrition rate is another issue that we'll have to deal with again this year. Our attrition numbers right now is 43. We have 270 members are eligible for retirement with the fire department. So even though this year we've got 30 recruits currently in our training center, and we hired 13 EMTs. The problem here is that we never catch that attrition number. From the time we start the process on fire suppression time, selecting the person that we want to hire, it takes about 8 months from them to go from testing, then going to the training center, which is 6 months, and getting them on the street. So we never catch up. By the time we get this group on the street, we'll be behind again. So the solution, I think, would be, and we plan on having another class in August of possibly 20, but I think a solution would probably be when we're able to, is to overhire. If we could do that, I think maybe we could catch that attrition number. And then with time and when the budget gets better, we will need to address, of course, just the growth of the city and expanding our number overall. We asked for $8.4 million, and we understand with the budget restraints. We still was very pleased that we received, from the recommendation of the mayor, 3 fire inspectors, and that will be able to help us tremendously, especially with the codes department had their fee study done that actually showed with the amount of inspections that was done from the fire department side, it equated to about 3 fire inspectors. We had over year to date, we're close to 400 short-term rental inspections right now. And so that's going to help us out tremendously. We're very happy with that. We also want to acknowledge and very appreciative that we, like the rest of the departments, got the 3% COLA. I think that was very appreciative of all the members of the fire department as well as other Metro entities. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions that you may have for us.
Thank you, Director Chief. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You answered a few of my questions when you addressed your personnel situation. So it sounds to me like, based on what I heard you say, you have budgeted numbers for your FTEs, but because of attrition of a variety of kinds, you're never able to quite get the number that you're budgeted. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yes, it's like we're sort of chasing our tail,
Yep,
if you would.
exactly.
It's just very difficult to try to catch that number, and we've seen an increase in it. This year it's 43. year, fiscal year to date. So as I gave the problem and solution, I think that's the only way. Our plan is to try to at least have the minimum 2 classes a year, but that number, to catch the number, we'll probably have to eventually do a little overhiring to catch it.
And with the Family and Medical Family Leave Act that you're having to fund, and the missing positions that you're having to really spend overtime money to fund, are you using the money from the attrition to help meet your budget needs? Is that what's going on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So would it be more efficient if you had the numbers where you're paying people a salary rather than basically a time and a half salary to fill those positions? So are we really spending more money than we need to fill those positions?
Well, I think if our maximum staffing that we would need, that would definitely help us out to be able to do exactly what you're saying. So you're not paying overtime, you're just paying, straight time, and you would be able to have someone fill that slot. So just with our numbers right now, it's just hard for us to absorb anything outside of the norm. So you're absolutely right with your statement.
If you are fully staffed with the numbers that you have been allocated, what does that do to your federal, I guess it's NFPA numbers that are required per piece of equipment? It seems like every fire department's always falling behind what those recommended numbers are. Would the same apply to us?
Well, it would be. And I think that's a national problem that all departments have. I mean, it's just right. the fact that and there was a statement actually put out that we were violating a 2 in and 2 out, OSHA regulation, which is not true. We cannot violate that. But what we do in most cases, if we have a fire scene or any type of, not just fires, any type of call that we have to have equipment, most times we will send more equipment just to have, not because we need the equipment, but we need the staffing off of that equipment. And we do that in lieu of not being able to violate any regulations, OSHA or NFPA, of course, is recommendations. So at this current time, we've able to put a footprint in place that helped us through last year's budget, and we're sure we'll continue on with the same process and able to give first-class service. We'll just send more equipment in order to manage.
Okay, my final question deals with special events that we have, being as we're having many more of these events in town, which is what happens when you're a growing city.
Absolutely.
So what do you, and I guess an example would be the recent NFL draft. Do you staff that, and how much money would that event, would you have spent out of your budget to staff an event like that?
Well, first let me just acknowledge that the NFL draft, I think that showed a great showing of Nashville's infrastructure working together, But the Nashville Fire Department, we had anywhere between 100 to 135 personnel per day at that event. Who would ever thought that we'd have 600 personnel that would actually come view that, or 600 people coming to view that NFL draft, which was great. I mean, I hope everybody took part in that. But I was just proud of what our department, along with other departments, did to actually be able to manage that many people. We've done that in the past as far as the 4th of July, the New Year's Eve. It's sort of a similar footprint, but bigger, of course, and working with the Convention Bureau and all the other parties of Nashville. It was just beautiful. I mean, the guys did a lot of great work, but the total cost of that number was a little over $300,000. Am I right with that, Lynn?
It was $325,000.
$325 is what was what we would have actually spent to actually manage that. And that's just, we had teams in strategic placed, and then we had walk-in teams, just so if something were to happen, that they would be there. And it made a comfort for not just the people from outside of the city, but for our citizens as well.
Yeah, I think that's what I understand. $325 for total staff time cost is what you're saying, right?
It's staff and supplies and equipment.
And supplies and equipment?
Right.
Okay,
It
all
was
right, okay, thank you.
270,000
Well,
for people.
Yeah, 270,000, as Leanne stated, for the staff people.
Okay.
But then when you equate all the equipment and that, it come up to 325.
yeah, I appreciate all your good work, and I appreciate you being able to do what you did there. This just illustrates how many challenges we have in moving forward with a rapidly growing city like we have. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the
Thank you, Councilman Pulley. Leanne, I want to expand what Councilman Pulley's question. Can you walk us through, like, I don't know if there's a formula, a methodology as to how we arrive at that 325,000? Some other departments that's come before us, we were asking the same question as it relates to special events, trying to gauge, is that really the true cost to your respective departments?
Sure. For the personnel cost, we used the actual cost that we paid each person who worked on those days. We tracked that. We have a software system that does our staffing and scheduling, and so we were able to identify that down to the penny. On the supply side, those costs we captured were items that we bought specifically for those events. We purchased additional drugs, Narcan, medical supplies specifically for that event. We didn't try to apply a formula and say, okay, X number of bandages and so on. We used things that were just purchased for that event. And then on the equipment side, we used the FEMA rates and applied that to the actual hours that the specific piece of equipment was in use. This is the same methodology used when we apply for reimbursement when we respond to a deployment for a natural disaster throughout the United States.
So without a formula or methodology, how did you know how much to buy? How did we know we didn't overpurchase for Narcan? Because that has a shelf life. So how did we know we didn't purchase too much?
So
because the projections to the city were off as it relates to attendance.
They projected based upon the estimated number of people that we thought we would have, and then we keep a certain percentage of product on the shelf for anything that could happen within the city, because being the emergency service provider, we don't have the luxury of just running to the store and pick up extra. So we had that extra supply here in case it was needed. But the amount that was attributed just to the NFL draft was what we reported.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Leanne, very much for all your hard work and keeping Nashville so safe. A couple of quick questions. How much does it cost for each new fireman for the training? I know the police view that it's sort of $70,000 to $75,000 for a new uniformed police officer. How much is it for each replacement?
For recruit, where is that, Leanne, that number? For each recruit, how much is it?
We budget them at $50,000.
So it's 50,000.
About $50,000. Okay. And then finding recruits, of course, is very challenging. Second question is, what is the budget for special events coming up in the next year? Things like the NFL draft, the kind of the special moments that Nashville has downtown that require your resources.
So all of our overtime budget is put together. We don't have a separate funding just for special events. So let me just see what the overtime budget is for next year.
While Leanne's looking that up, I will state that as far as recruits, Councilman Cooper, we don't really have a problem recruiting as far as for fire. We don't have that problem at all. But again, I think the only challenge that we would have is just the timing to actually get them from selection to back in the street.
And our overtime budget is $4.9 million.
$4.9 million, and that overtime mostly goes to...
Excuse me, 3.5, I apologize.
Oh, 3.5,
Yes.
and that's the budget in the coming year, and that
Correct.
is mostly in the downtown area expected, or it's hard to know how that allocation is?
That funding is split between the GSD and USD. one challenge that we have every year is when we put out the overtime opportunities, we never know exactly how it will cycle through those people and who will accept and who won't. So sometimes we have to make some adjustments at the end of the year to clean up any issues there. But we do have it split. The majority of the funding does sit in the GSD, but there's still $1 million, almost $1.1 million for overtime in the USD. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then, Chief, if you didn't mind just commenting just generally on call time response and where that has been trending over time and your view of our call time.
You said the call time as far as
Response, yeah.
Right.
I mean, given that you have, the city is growing, you have more calls, you have essentially the same number of personnel. How is call time response trending?
Well, I think one of the biggest things we got to remember that, the city is just not growing up, it's also growing out. I mean, the borders now that we touch, it's sometimes difficult to tell if you're in, if you're in one county or the next because we're touching each other. So when it comes to in more of the internal inside Nashville, like downtown and other areas, you don't have as big of an issue. But when you start going outside areas in more of the outside regions, then it becomes an issue because of the response time from point A to B may grow a little bit more. So we're if you look at, I know the questions that were asked of us from the council, the percentage time that we are, from the time that we want to initially, when the bell goes off, from the time the responders get out, we mark that at 1:30 seconds, and we're hitting that at 90%. But arriving on the scene, we like to try to keep it within 5 minutes, and we're hitting that target at 80%, and that equates to many things. It could be if the station actually, the fire engine or truck at the station when the call comes out in their area, or because they're busy, the station, the response may have to come from another area. So we definitely know that with the growth of the city that it will take its toll, but more on the outskirts areas of Nashville, Davidson County, where we see that the time will be an issue, and it's constantly being worse. But we're hoping to address that in the upcoming future.
I appreciate you staying on top of that because it's so important to everybody in the county. And then one final question. I know the fire portion of the 3% COLA. I know we've seen the overall numbers, but what is the fire portion of that? And if you...
We have not received what that proposed funding will be for next year.
Okay. So out of the 23.3, that's not broken out to you yet?
Correct. We have not received our pay plan numbers yet.
Your pay plan numbers. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. Director Chief, you mentioned in your comments about the staffing increase for fire inspection related to short-term rentals, and I don't know if my colleague already pressed his button, so Larry, I'm not intending to take your question there, but is it your understanding then that the permit fee increase is encompassing both your additional fire inspectors and the additional inspectors in codes, which I believe were 2 more? Is that
for codes? I think that's correct for codes. I mean, the codes fee study just showed the need for fire inspectors, but the fee study for permit, we haven't received that as of yet, so we're still waiting for that, which we're hoping that will actually help with the permitting side of what we do. It'll give us guidelines of how much to actually charge for permit fees and make sure that what we're currently charging, or what fees that we actually administering right now, are we at the proper fee? And then what other things should we charge for? And so we will wait to hear from that, and hopefully that'll give us some guidance.
So that is, so I appreciate that the fee study related to short-term rentals did touch your department a little
absolutely.
bit, but we had asked, I think we had a conversation last budget season, Chair Vercher and I, when we were talking about the impact of our growing city.
Right.
And the fact that the fire department is going out to do inspections in these massive high-rise buildings and having to kind of maintain certain annual standards, that we are doing that free of charge. And so is the fee study that you are, that is in progress addressing that issue or just all across the board?
Well, yes, it should. That's what we're waiting for, and that will it would basically answer the questions that we did talk about last year, and it'll give us the guidance to what we need. Because again, at least to try to have the charging of the permits. At least capture what it costs to actually do that, the actually inspections. Because right now, you're right, we do it and it's no charge, and certain things that we're like fee studies that we are, the charges are so low, and the cost of doing it is far more than what the fee itself is. So we're waiting for that to get more guidance, and it will address that.
And do we know, do you have an anticipated date of receipt on that fee study? Or, Chair Vercher, can we pose that to finance? I don't know who's conducting that fee study for fire.
Mr. McGuire, can you provide us some guidance on that?
A separate fee study for fire? I'm not aware.
Well, that's something
It's
council
in
elevated
process.
in last budget season.
It's
Yeah, it should be underway.
It's in process, right? We can figure out the timeline of when we expect that to be delivered.
And can you tell me when it was initiated, please?
At least 6 to 9 months ago.
And what's taking so long?
That's a good question.
First of all, we are using a contractor to do that analysis, and the preliminary review and the data was provided by the fire and EMS department to the consultants, and then when that information was presented to finance, we had some questions about the data, and quite frankly, we did not finish our review, and that's what has stalled the report, but we were concerned about some of the data integrity of the report, and that's why it didn't move as quickly as it should have, and we are bringing it back up now to take another look at it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
So your anticipated date of delivery on that would be?
Can I tell you in the morning? I just don't want to overcommit.
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
rather not overcommit.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all, Chair Vercher. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Councilman Hager,
Thank you, Madam
now
Chair.
you can ask your 2 questions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I think
Maybe
I've
3,
answered it.
4, no, 3. How many do we have inspecting the STRs now? Do we have a set number or not?
Well, what we've designated 3 to actually perform these short-term rental
Right.
inspections. So that's the study actually just pretty much provided us the information that we already knew. So now with the rewarding of the 3 inspectors, man, it's going to take some pressure off of the department, because, short-term rentals is just one small thing that they do.
Right.
So they'll be designated to actually do the short-term rental inspections, along with helping with the other permits.
So what we'll do is have 3 more that'll be inspectors as well, is that correct, or just 3 designated?
That'll be just 3 designated.
The 3
We
designated.
can't afford that.
And what type of salary do they receive?
It's the same as all of the inspectors are under the same window when they come in. It depends on who that person is, how long they've been there, but it's not. They don't get anything more special than anybody else. They're inspectors, so it depends on their time on and all that as far as what they get paid.
Okay, so it's in the $40,000 range, somewhere in that area?
I'd say between more like 48 to 50, because they're
Okay.
like equated to about engineer pay.
All right. And did we ever get I know you requested these 3, but have we, at a point where you're building that new fire hall in between District 11 and 12, Are we going to have more personnel for that particular fire hall?
Well, the one in your district, Station 32s?
Yes.
Well, no, that's actually, when you consider that's a new station.
Correct.
Or the rebuild of the old station. So we'll use the current personnel to just shift over to that. It's not a new fire hall, meaning,
Right.
you know, it's a brand new station. It's just the same station, same personnel. So we will not get any
Okay.
more additional funding.
And I assume next year we'll talk about keeping the old fire hall for another ambulance service?
Yeah, that would be definitely something that we would look at if we ever get to a point where our staffing is where it should be, or where we would like for it to be. I would say that if we have extra, that we would run another ambulance out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that area is just booming again, just like most places in
Oh, yeah.
Nashville.
And what about fast cars? Is that another issue we're still talking about? I know we've talked about it before.
Well, currently we're back into running our fast cars and our utility vehicles for downtown. And what we're trying to do with managing the department, the downtown area between April and October, we find to be the most busiest with all the activities that goes on. So right now we're currently running our fast cars, but in lieu of staying within budget, that's what we had to do last year. We'll pull that back. We've still been able to give service. It's just the fast car process or concept, I should say, in lieu of the downtown area, highly dense areas, it's just easier to run those SUVs.
Right.
And actually, we've got a couple of utility vehicles down there that we're running as well, which a great, my command staff all sat down to try to figure out a way that we can take a little pressure off of the downtown area and also do business at a higher level with safety in mind. That's what we're doing. But when we look at our budget and we have to pull back, we will pull those amenities back. But again, pulling those back doesn't mean that we don't provide service. We just have to be smarter in the way we manage.
Thank you, Chief Vaughn.
All right.
Thank you, Councilman Hager. Councilman Hastings.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to address Chief. Glad you guys are here. I just wanted to ask a question relevant to, and we have spoken on this several times. You know, I have 2 fire departments in my district, and one is actually responding all the way to Jolton.
Right.
And trying to see, you know, if there's a middle ground to where we're working on either staffing that up, or we're going to have more officers, or we're going to fire officers, whatever. And then also to look to see if, because I know trucks have been, especially the ladder trucks, have been an issue. If there is something that we're looking at with pertaining to budget, because there's always a budget issue on what we're looking at and how to house that. I know the constituents over in districts 1 and 2, since we're so closely related, we're asking those questions. I want to be able to see if we are looking into that, especially with this upcoming budget year, or if that is something that we're going to have to work on for future past this point.
Well, let me address and if I miss one of your questions, you can just poke me with that. But first of all, the good news is that Jolton is one of those outskirts areas that's borderlining Davidson County. So what we try to do with that station is make sure that we always at least have a staffing level at 4 personnel there, just because we realize that if something happens to them, a fire or extrication, an MVA, or a horrific incident that takes more than just your regular response, they have a little bit more staffing than most. So that sort of helps, because it's a delay getting there. And you're right, Station 24 and 25 is in your district, and Station 25 does respond to Jolton. And then as far as our equipment, we're doing a lot better. We're working closely with General Services, and I think we've worked, Nancy and Stacy in our department has worked very closely as trying to manage our equipment and putting priorities on our pieces of equipment. And we've come a long way since this time last year, and I'm very happy with their relationship with them. And they're doing the best they can with what they have. But Station 25 actually has a new fire truck, and they're putting that in service. And I would recommend you go by there and take a look at it. It's state of the art, a brand new fire truck, and I'm very proud of that. So we are trying to think thoroughly through how we manage with the department right now, with just like all the infrastructure or all the departments, with the budget being like it is, we just got to tighten our belts, and we'll do that, and we'll manage, and we'll still provide good service. But you know, you have my number, and we've talked many times on this subject, so we're paying attention to every part of our department, how we do business, making sure that we provide great service, not to just inside of GSD, USD. We try to make sure we cover everything. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Councilman Hastings. Director Chief, just real fast, I know the Metro Emergency Alert Notification System, MEANS, that's a new alert system with a collaborative effort amongst agencies. Can you just briefly, just for the viewing audience, just convey what that is and how emergency management and fire, their role in that new alert system?
Well, yes, Keith Durbin and IT department had brought the ideas with the means, and it's basically where people can sign up to get notifications of any type of emergency that takes place. It's another tool that can be used, and what will happen if something that needs to be notified to the regular citizen, they have the opportunity of signing up, and they'll be able to get an alert. We sort of use it internally. It's not called the means, but we use that internally, meaning if anything happens within the city of Davidson County, certain selective people get text or paged out knowing what that incident will be. So now expanding that to the citizens, you know, you'll be able to know when danger's at bay or something intimate that's going to happen. I just think it's a great tool. Again, Keith Durbin, I won't speak on his behalf, but it's just moving us to the 21st century. And I'm sorry, I'm not in the weeds with that. Currently, it's being built and they're implementing it, and it's up and running. They're still tweaking a few things about it. A few of my other command staff have more detail about that. So I hope I answered, or at least
you did. I
got
was only
people's
asking
thoughts.
because you did a press statement about it. That's what I was
absolutely.
asking.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Director Chief Swan, for everything that you do and the great firemen and firewomen that serve this great city. This concludes your budget hearing.
All right, thank you.